Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in once again. My name is Naz, this is my buddy Jake. We are the Reaction Haven, and today we will be doing our review for Spider-Man No Way Home. By the way guys, stay tuned until the very end because we will be doing our official Reaction Haven ranking for all of the Spider-Man movies. So stay tuned for that. This is full spoilers, by the way, full spoilers.
It's kind of hard to hide from all the spoilers. We were going to the film dressed as Tobey Maguire from Spider-Man 3. Thanks for watching that.
Yeah, if you haven't checked it out yet, link right here. Just watch it for the beginning because
first 30 seconds.
Just watch the first 30 seconds. You'll enjoy it for sure. If you've seen all the Spider-Man movies, Marvel's like, we recognize you. Here you go. Have fun. And then they gave us this. I mean, this movie is
lived up to the hype.
Friggin' awesome.
Oh gosh, it was awesome. The hype and the level of engagement in the movie was on the level of Endgame.
It was up there. Especially that third act. We are not ashamed to say a lot of screaming was done in the theater.
Oh yeah,
a lot of
hand grabbing.
A lot of we were literally in the beginning, right before before the movie starts. Thank you for choosing AMC. And then Jake and I were like, Jake,
and then Nicole Kidman.
And then boom, Nicole Kidman shows
introducing
up.
AMC.
We're just like, come on. So the movie starts off right where Far From Home ends. Mysterio reveals to everyone, oh, Spider-Man's Peter. They have to eventually get a lawyer because of all the mess that's created for Peter being thought that he was the one who killed Mysterio. And they get a lawyer, and it's Matt Murdock, Daredevil himself. Now, I think that was the first scream in the theater. People were like,
oh yeah. And having just watched the Hawkeye series with Kingpin, we were like, okay, this makes sense.
If it's from the same universe, great. If they just got the same actors to play the roles again, but not from the same universe, it'll be a little bit confusing, but whatever.
Yeah, why?
I'm sure we'll get some clarification on that in the future. Someone throws a brick through the window.
Oh yeah.
And Matt Murdock was like, Peter was like, how'd you do that? I'm a really good lawyer.
The whole theater just laughed. Like, that was a good huge laughs. We cut to Peter, going back to school. Some of the teachers are like super hyped to Spider-Man, and then this one teacher's like,
I think the gym teacher or something. Yeah. He was one of those conspiracy theorist people. Was like, you know what you did? You murdered Mysterio, murderer. And then one of the teachers just like, feel free to crawl on the ceiling, swing along the hallway.
Because of all the backlash of everyone knowing Peter is Spider-Man, MJ, Ned, and Peter don't get into like their top 3 choices.
Yeah, which we found extremely odd.
We were like, what? Yeah.
All these schools with everything
they owe their
Peter's
lives
done.
to him. It's like,
Peter saved New York once with the whole Vulture thing. Peter saved, what is it, Venice and London in Far From Home.
On top of half the freaking universe.
I know. So these schools should be
thankful
to have Peter enroll in their program, but whatever.
That didn't make sense to us,
Yeah. So then after that, he goes to Doctor Strange to help clean this mess up.
Strange is doing the spell with Peter because he feels bad for Peter. And while he's doing the spell, Peter's like, oh, but can my Aunt May please still know? And then he's like, okay, fine. So he draws another one circle.
Does that whole thing again.
Oh, and MJ has to know. Boom, draws another circle. And then, oh, but my best friend Ned and Happy. And then Strange is getting confused, and then all the circles start going out of balance, and then boom. And Naz and I both agree. We were like, dude, why didn't Doctor Strange just sit Peter down and be like, hey, Pete,
before we start this,
before I start doing this,
here are the rules of the spell, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to remember, Peter's a kid. Of course, he wouldn't think of these things prior. Strange puts that messed up spell inside a magic Rubik's box. Something.
Yeah. We don't see any of the consequences right away. Peter's feeling super guilty because MJ and Ned, because their connection to him, didn't get into MIT. And
so he tracks down the lady.
Yeah, so he tracks down the admissions
admissions
counselor, advisor, whatever, on the bridge. He just like walks up. He was swinging along, knocks on her window.
Hi, I'm Peter Parker. My friend Ned and MJ, the best people on the planet. We hear the theme from Spider-Man 2 of his.
And the bridge is shaking.
And the bridge is
shaking.
You know who it is. And then Dr. Octopus comes. They have a really cool battle. At the very end of the battle, though, whenever Dr. Octopus does that whole thing to Peter, and then the nanotech comes, and we're just like, okay, well, Dr. Octopus is going to become stronger because of the nanotech now, but then no. It's because of this that Peter's technology, the technology here, is paired with Dr. Octopus's tentacles, so Peter can now control them, and we love that.
We did see Goblin. Just saw him briefly.
And then they get zapped back to Doctor Strange's place, and then Doctor Strange has already caught Lizard. He's already there. And Lizard's completely out of his mind at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever he got pulled, he's like, I want to turn everyone into lizards. So then they track down all of the anomalies, and then Peter is in a field with like electrical towers. We see Electro come in. But whenever he does come in first in his blue electric form, like in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I've seen the movie twice, and I missed it the first time. And also, I'm a big sucker for soundtracks and themes. Whenever Electro comes in, you hear the his theme song from Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I really appreciated that. And also, Sandman comes in, protects Peter at first.
Yeah, because really they were friends at the end of Spider-Man 3. Yeah.
Then they defeat Electro, Peter unmasks, and then Sandman was like, who are you? I don't trust you. And then that remains consistent for the rest of the movie, where Sandman doesn't trust anyone. Whenever they got Norman, we really appreciated how it looked like they were showing it as like a form of mental illness, what Norman was going through.
And then he was like stealing donuts. Like, okay.
That's very funny.
It's at this point where Norman and Peter, MJ, Ned are all back in the basement with all the other villains. Strange says, hey, this is going to send all of them back to their own universes. And they start chatting. They're like, but we're going to die. And then Peter kind of grows a heart. He's like, oh, maybe there's a way to save him. I don't want to go back and die. And Strange is like, bro, it has to be done. Like, this is serious stuff.
These are the
like,
rules of the multiverse.
With these things, man. Come on. Strange starts a spell. And Peter's like, I'm sorry. Steals the box. I love how Strange just acted like a dad. Like, what are you doing?
Opens up portals.
Like, you know you can't escape me, bro. Come on. I'm the
And then he does
wizard.
that whole thing where Peter's like out of his body. Peter's like, am I dead? Am I dead?
What's going on?
If you saw it in IMAX, you know what I'm talking about. You see the Peter spider senses like above his head, which is why he was able to move his body around without him being in his body. And Shane was like, how are you doing this? You shouldn't be able to do this.
And the whole
mirror dimension.
Train, the mirror dimension thing with the train. And then we get to the part where they went to the geometry dimension, the math dimension.
It's still the mirror dimension.
They're still in the mirror dimension, but disagreed on this. Naz really liked it. He was like, oh, I thought that was so cool. While Peter was like, oh wait, it's just geometry? I can do that. E equals MC squared. The root of 99 is A, but and they were just doing the webs, and it just happened that he, I guess, like, caught Strange somehow, but I don't know. I thought that was super cheesy. I thought it was super cheap. Kind of dumb and cheap.
I loved it.
He loved it.
I loved
it.
People
liked it.
How else would you defeat Doctor Strange in his dimension? Of course, Peter, math over magic. That's how he would be able to defeat Doctor Strange. But let us know down in the comment section. What did you think of that whole thing? So then they all go to Happy's apartment, and then they first cure Dr. Octopus. They did the inhibitor chip.
Yeah.
I think it's what it's called. They fix it. And then
he controls the tentacles, not the tentacles controlling him.
Exactly.
And my gosh, we love that scene. Like, it was just so wholesome to see him be the man he was at the beginning of Spider-Man 2.
Alfred Molina's acting.
Oh man, it was
just
so,
like
it was like
it looked
day.
like he's like more relaxed, more calm. He's just like, and then
it's like this serene music. Like, it was just like peaceful.
And then he makes a comment. It's like, I forgot what silence is, or something like that, because of all the noise he hears from the tentacles. And he just looks so calm now. We really dug that scene.
That was a great scene.
And then they spend the entire rest of that night trying to make cures for everyone. Norman, we don't know it yet, but he's flipped. While he was making that cure, he was already gone. It's Goblin back in that form.
We could sense something, because there was some like camera work where it was like lingering on Norman for just a little too long. Peter gets like his spider sense.
He doesn't know what's going on.
He doesn't even know who it is and what's going on.
Yeah, the camera focuses on him like walking around in the apartment.
Yeah, it's like right behind his head. He webs Norman's hand. All of a sudden, Norman's like, Goblin face.
And then he makes this really great and terrifying speech like, these are not curses, these are gifts, we are gods among men, or something like that. And all the villains themselves are in different layers. Dr. Octopus is fine, but Norman's sort of the head of the whole thing. And then we see Electro, Jamie Foxx, who's already kind of 50-50 on the whole, I don't know if I want to get all this power out of me, I don't know. And then Sandman just wants to get back to his daughter. And then Lizard, just like I said before, just completely out of it in like the truck downstairs.
That leads us to the fight scene between Norman and Peter. they're like on the side of the building just kicking the crap out of each other.
There was that one scene where Peter like whips Norman upside down and then slams him down.
Oh yeah, with the webs.
It's like straight out of like knee or something. It was straight out of like the Spider-Man video game.
Leads us to the saddest part of the movie, probably. Yeah.
They land in the lobby. Aunt May's there trying to get away. The bomb, then the glider comes in, hits Aunt May. And Peter was like, "Wake up! What are you doing? Come on, May! Come on!" It reminded me a lot of The Lion King. That scene. It was kind of like that.
She had to say. She kind of like put a little twist on the Uncle Ben line from Spider-Man 1, right?
Yeah, and if you guys don't know, that is actually how the line is said in the original comic book. There must also be great responsibility. Switch to Ned and MJ
at Ned's house.
At Ned's house with Lola, who's a Filipina, by the way. Represent. Let's talk about Ned first.
Like why he was able to do open a freaking portal.
It was just kind of convenient. It was like he tells Doctor Strange, "Oh, I have magic in my family" or whatever. All right, whatever. Does the whole thing.
It's like, I wish I could see Peter right now. And then you see this figure. He starts running to him. Everyone's already screaming in the theater. Like, we couldn't
before we get there.
Oh, man.
So before the reveal actually happens, the portal is opened. And then you see Spider-Man there in the alleyway. There was 3 different levels of reactions from fans. People who recognized Andrew's, like, his Spider-Man's, like, big white goggles, eyes, whatever. And then the second layer where he runs in, shows up in his suit, then people started recognizing that he was Andrew. And then the third layer is fans who were like, "Who is that?" And then finally takes his mask off. "Oh, it's Andrew Garfield."
Mm-hmm. And then MJ's just like, "You're not Peter," and she throws bread at him. She's like,
"The bread scene.
Do your spider senses work?"
He's sticking on the ceiling and it crawls up.
Not for bread.
That was pretty funny. You also hear the original theme from The Amazing Spider-Man and James Horner's score.
Ned tries again. He's like, "Okay, I'm gonna try again."
Find the real Peter.
Tobey Maguire's just walking. He's like, "Hey."
Both sense that Tom Holland's Peter they needed him or something.
Oh yeah.
So then they go find him in that roof off on top of the school. And they're all consoling him, and which was a very, very nice scene. And that one shot of Toby and Andrew on top of the building, like with the moonlight behind them, and all about, straight out of a comic book, I'm sure. And they're just letting him vent. Tobey Maguire talks about Uncle Ben. Andrew Garfield talks about Gwen. And they just have this really special moment between all the Spider-Man. And then they all band together, and then they go to the high school, I think, and then they make a bunch of cures for all the villains.
Yeah, they were like, wait, so yours, like, your webs comes out of your body. And then Toby was like, "Yeah, this is not for you guys."
And then they had that meme scene where they're all, like, pointing at each other. Peter. Continuing on with that, they're finally at the statue, and they continue to have banter with each other. It's like, they first cut to Tobey Maguire and, like, his callback to Spider-Man 2 when he had, like, back problems. And he's like,
and then Andrew helps him, like, pop it. Like, he, like, hugs him from behind.
And then they talk about, "So what are the weirdest villains you've ever fought?" And then Tobey was like, "I fought an alien made of black goo once." And then Tom Holland's like, "I fought an alien too, but he was in space and he was purple." Andrew Garfield's like, "I just fought some dude in a big rhino costume." It's like, man, I suck.
Toby's like, "Hey, it's all that negative self-talk, man." It was just, like, really funny to see them, like, encouraging each other, you know, and the kind of brotherly bond amongst them, right?
Yeah, it's kind of meta too. Like, most fans recognize that Andrew's movies are, like, the least favorite for the most part. And then these other Spider-Men are consoling him, like, "Dude, you're amazing. Don't forget that. You are amazing." And Andrew's like,
"Just say it.
Just say it." Like, Andrew's like, "Yeah, I needed to hear that."
All the villains show up. They have the cures. They're planning to go after them. Well, they didn't really have a plan at first, right?
Yeah,
they
were
just kind
just
of go
like,
after them all at the same time. And then they're getting their butts kicked. And then they kind of band together, all 3 of them. And they're like, "Okay, we should go after one at a time."
Peter, I think it was Andrew Garfield was like, "Guys, we suck. Yeah, we haven't fought together as a team. We haven't been in a team. We don't know how to fight as a team." And then
that's when
Tom Holland was like, "I'm not gonna brag, but I am. I was in the Avengers." And then the Tobey Maguire was like, "That's great. What is that?" That was pretty good. Andrew Garfield was like, "Is that a band? Are you in a band? Trust your spider tingle. Coordinate your attacks. This, that, and the other thing." And then they finally, that shot of them running, like, outside and jumping.
Running and swinging. Oh, man.
And then big battle happens. Goblin comes in, gets one of the pumpkin bombs. Boom, explosion. MJ falls off the side. We see Tom Holland jumping after her, but then Goblin catches him. And I was like, oh god. And then we see Andrew come in.
A little different from the scene in Amazing Spider-Man 2 where he lost Gwen. In that scene, he shot the web first.
And it was too late.
But in this scene, he grabbed MJ first and then shot the web up. He had that tearful moment. He was like about to cry and he was tearing up. And oh man, Andrew's such a good actor.
He's a good crier.
Oh, man.
He's a good crier.
He's good at looking like he's in pain.
Whenever he lands and he asks MJ, "Are you okay?" MJ was like, "Yeah, are you okay?" He was like, "Yeah." I'm not much of a crier in the theaters, but if there was any moment to cry in the theaters, it was that one. Redemption.
Oh yeah. All the other villains except for
Goblin
cured basically, and then we cut to Tom just bashing on Goblin because obviously he killed Aunt May. He's basically just about to kill him. Picks up the glider. He's about to stab him, and then Toby steps in.
Of course, it was gonna be Toby who was gonna prevent Tom from killing because it comes full circle because in Spider-Man 3 all he wanted to do was kill. He didn't want Tom Holland Spider-Man to go down that path because he's been through the same exact one, and he's sort of like the older brother of the group. We have a Spider-Man who's in his like 40s, more established, more calm, and then Andrew Spider-Man who's like late 20s, early 30s, still has some stuff to figure out, kind of still has that bit of anger, and then Tom Holland who's just a kid, and then boom, he gets stabbed in the back, of course, and Jake and I were both like in the theater. We literally jumped up. We're like, no!
Apparently, it was just a flesh wound. Yeah. He was like standing up, just like, it's okay.
Yeah, it's like I've been stabbed before. That was pretty funny.
Doctor Strange shows up. He's stopping all of the other people from the multiverse who know Peter Parker Spider-Man from coming into their world. So we see vague figures cracking through.
The silhouettes, one looked like Kraven, one looked like Scorpion, Rhino was one of them, and some other ones.
Peter's like, would it work if everyone just forgot that Peter Parker's Spider-Man? He's like, well, yeah, but then I wouldn't know you, and the Avengers wouldn't know you. And he's like,
no one would know
you. Just do it. It's okay. And so Peter's like, okay, he sacrifices his entire life. Like,
no one knows who he is.
Yeah, so he doesn't have a freaking social security card, basically.
Yeah.
I guess even Doctor Strange himself doesn't know. It's like, dude, you cast a spell. Like, is he gonna forget he cast a spell? Oh well.
There are these details are just like, well, what if this, that, and the other thing? But whatever.
We'll see. There was this really beautiful moment between MJ and Peter where he's like, "You're gonna forget me," and she's like, "No, you can't do that," and she's crying.
And even Ned too.
And even Ned, and they're like, and she's like, "I love you." And then she's like, "You better come find me, okay?" And he's like, "I will."
And then Peter tracks her down at the donut shop.
Oh yeah.
And about to tell MJ, but then MJ does this thing with her hair, and then we see the Band-Aid from the battle, and Peter's like, "Oh, right. If I tell her, harm will come to her because she knows I'm Spider-Man." So he kind of backs off. "I want you to be safe. I want you to go at MIT, have your life free of Spider-Man, knowing who Spider-Man is." So we really appreciate it.
But she was still wearing the necklace that Tom gave her.
Yeah, the necklace was still there.
We don't know why. Yeah, okay. So we're kind of hopeful. Something happens in a future movie or something. Tom somehow gets his own apartment, like one little, New York City shack, basically. And then we see he's sewing his own suit. And this didn't occur to me while we were watching it, but I saw a TikTok about it. The reason why Tom had to make his own suit was because the nanotech on Stark's suit didn't recognize him, because even that didn't know that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. So he had to make a suit like without any extra abilities, basically, which makes sense.
Which I love. They even make a joke about it in the movies, like Iron Man Jr., this Spider-Man suit, the Iron Spider suit. I've never really dug because there's too much Stark technology on it. Basically, Peter he always has help. He can't deal with things on his own, like with his own powers. And then here he makes his own suit. This is Spider-Man, not Spider-Man with Stark technology. So then, mid-credit scene, we see Eddie Brock in, I think he's in Mexico or something, learning about Thanos and Infinity Stones and all that stuff. And in the post-credit scene of Venom, Let There Be Carnage, Venom talks about because of the hive mind, we know so many things about all the different universes. So that's how Eddie Brock's Venom was transported into MCU, because Venom knows
Peter Parker's Spider-Man.
That Venom knows what other Venoms knows. That's what we think is going on. That's why he was there. Then he gets snapped back to his original universe. We're assuming right whenever Doctor Strange did the whole spell at the end. And then a little black goo of venom is left there. I guess that little black venom goo is going to travel all the way from Mexico to New York City or something.
And hopefully we get a Tom Holland black suited Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man 3, wouldn't that be pretty dope? A bully Tom Holland Spider-Man.
And then we'll talk about the post-credit scene where there's Doctor Strange. It was a trailer of Multiverse of Madness. We see Wanda. Doctor Strange was like, I'm not here to talk about Westview. I'm like, why? There's so much to talk about Westview. Talk about that, Doctor Strange.
Made it seem like in this teaser trailer for the next Doctor Strange that he's going to Wanda for help to fix the ramifications of casting the spell.
At least it seems.
It's seen that way. So how does he still not know Peter Parker's Spider-Man? We don't know. We'll figure it out. Hopefully the next Doctor Strange explains that. And the last thing we see is an evil Strange.
Some people have been suggesting that that's the what if Doctor Strange. So we'll see if that comes true. But we're excited for Doctor Strange too.
Okay, guys, so that was our review of Spider-Man No Way Home. Now we're going to get on to ranking our favorite Spider-Mans from last to first.
Last to first.
Right. Okay.
All the Spider-Man movies. We're not going to include Venom, and Jake has not seen Into the Spider-Verse. All right, here we go. Coming in at number 9 for me is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I just did a rewatch of this film not too long ago, and man, it's a mess. There's just too much stuff going on. There's Peter, and then there's Oscorp, and there's Max. Harry turns into a goblin. Only Spider-Man's blood can make him Spider-Man. That's why no one else can be Spider-Man. And I'm like, I thought anyone can be Spider-Man. The storyline was just kind of a mess for me there, and that's why Amazing Spider-Man 2 is my number 9.
Last on my list is Spider-Man Far From Home. That one was just... It seemed like a filler in between Homecoming and No Way Home. Like it just seemed like it was looking back to Homecoming and it was looking forward to No Way Home. For me, the biggest thing was the dialogue. It was just kind of a little lacking for me. I mean, it was still entertaining and fun, like all the MCU movies are. And
coming in at number 8 for me is The Amazing Spider-Man. It's the first Andrew Garfield one. This movie it's fine. I just never felt really connected to the characters. I wasn't really invested in the story with the lizard and then Peter's parents, that whole conspiracy or whatever. I liked Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield's chemistry. That was good. But the whole ending where Lizard is just on top of the tower turning everyone into lizards, I was like, I didn't really buy into it. But it's still a fine film. It's fine. But it's lower on the list for me for sure. That's why it's my number 8 Spider-Man film.
Okay, the next for me was Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man 1 with Tobey Maguire. I think it was released 2000, I want to say.
2002.
2002, was it?
Yeah.
But it was just, oh man. Rewatching it, it's slower than 2 and 3, which I mean, I understand, because it's the first one, but at the same time, like the effects, watching the effects now, you're like, oh my gosh, that's horrible.
So then coming in at number 7 for me is Spider-Man 3. I still enjoy this movie. I remember as a kid thinking it was like the greatest movie ever, but as an adult you start to realize this movie has lots of problems. Kind of has like problems the same as The Amazing Spider-Man 2 where so much is going on. Venom is just shoehorned in there by the studio because Venom was popular at that point from what I've heard. It would have been a more compelling story if they just focused like on Sandman, and maybe even Harry would have been fine, but there's just too much going on here. And the whole, it's funny now, but the whole Bully Maguire scene where he's just dancing, now take on this, and all that stuff that he says, it's meme worthy now. But
so funny.
I still I still like this movie better than the previous movies. So Spider-Man 3 is at my number 7.
Alright, for my number 6, we have Amazing Spider-Man 2. I mean, yeah, for the reasons Naz mentioned, it was definitely not as good as Amazing Spider-Man 1, in my opinion. The villains, like, Jamie Foxx, it was just, like, kind of poorly done.
Number 6 for me is Spider-Man Homecoming. I didn't really care too much about the events happening in the movie. I liked Vulture. He was a good villain. Michael Keaton's acting was great there. Yeah, just coming off of wherever Peter left off in Civil War, he just kind of still figuring out, I want to be an Avenger, but then he's figuring out, no, I have to be Spider-Man here.
For kind of those same reasons, that's my number 5 actually. Yeah, Spider-Man Homecoming. So yeah, entertaining, but not as good as some of the others. Yeah. Okay.
So for my number 5 ranking, I will put Spider-Man Far From Home. This movie has problems, for sure, but I just found it a lot more entertaining than Spider-Man Homecoming. I like the different settings. They're in like Venice, they're in London. I like Mysterio as a villain. He was cool. Jake Gyllenhaal's acting, very, very good.
Number 4 for me is going to be The Amazing Spider-Man. The reason why I liked it was a new take. Seeing Spider-Man 3 with Tobey, was that 2006? Seven. And right after that, seeing Andrew Garfield, it had a new flair to it. His character was so different, and it just had this kind of freshness to it. And I don't know. So it's kind of nostalgic thinking about that one for me. So that's why it's number 4 for me.
And number 4 for me will be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This movie was just a pleasant surprise watching. I was late to the train on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but then I kept hearing really good things about it. I first thought like the trailers, the animation was weird. I'm just like, oh god. But then I watched it. It was such a pleasant surprise. The whole story with Miles and figuring out how he's Spider-Man, and Kingpin is in there, which is a really, really good villain, and all the Spider-Men come in. Very, very fun movie. Really nothing to complain about. So that's why it's ranked as my number 4 favorite Spider-Man movie.
Number 3 is going to be Spider-Man 2 with you got Tobey, you got Doc Ock in there. Doc Ock's character is so well laid out. The character development for him is so well done, and he's such a good villain, and they did such a good job. I don't know.
Brilliant but lazy.
Brilliant, but the power of the sun.
Alright, so coming in at my number 3 is the original Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2002. Man, this is just a pure nostalgia trip for me. Seeing that first Spider-Man film in the theater, I think I was with my mom. She took me to the first Spider-Man. And from that point on, I was like, man, I want to be Spider-Man. Like seeing him swing across New York. And then we see Willem Dafoe. It's a great villain. And I'm glad in No Way Home they took off the mask so we can see his acting. But as a kid, I dug the film.
And my number 2 is going to be Spider-Man No Way Home. My reasons, I think, we just did the whole video on it.
I know, we just did the whole video on it.
It was epic. It was freaking awesome. It was entertaining. You had the magic elements from Doctor Strange. You had all the Spider-Man together. For that reason, the epicness of it, it's going to be my number 2.
Yeah. And at number 2 is Spider-Man No Way Home for me as well. A lot of what Jake just said, a lot of what we just mentioned in the video. And I'll repeat what I said at the beginning of this video. If you've watched all the Spider-Man films, all 8 or 9 of them, and then you see everyone there at the very end, you are rewarded for watching these movies. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah. I love Spider-Man No Way Home. It's fantastic seeing all the Spider-Man there for sure. That's why it's my number 2. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, we're down to my number 1. So my number 1 is Spider-Man 3.
Comment section. Go get him. Yes, go get him, comment section.
You got my man Eddie Brock in there, bro, from that 70s show.
Eric Foreman.
Eric Foreman, dude. And then you got Sandman. And then you got, okay, because of the memeage and the TikTok we have for Bully Maguire, that alone kind of catapults this movie for me into its whole another level. You know, you have to find us some shade. Now dig on. See a chump. See a chump. And then the whole, obviously, and it's also just crazy entertaining. And obviously watching it now, you're like, man, this is kind of dumb. But watching it at the time, you're like, man, this is freaking awesome. Dude has a black suit now. Dude's like mixed up with Venom, and then he's like, when he's tearing it up, you remember in the church bell tower, yeah. And boom, and it's just like, yeah,
the special effects hold up.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
For the time, it was good. Yeah, it was really, really good. Probably for the main reason of it being the Bully Maguire movie. Probably my number 1.
Go get him, comment section. Go get him. And don't forget that in Spider-Man 3, it was not Venom, it was not Harry, it was not Sandman who was Peter's greatest enemy. His greatest enemy was that damn door.
Yeah. And Mr. What was his name?
Mr. Ditkovich.
Mr. Ditkovich.
Best enemy.
And his sweet daughter making Peter some cookies.
You'll get your money when you fix this damn door.
Oh my gosh! And what was her name? Gwendolyn. With the white hair in Spider-Man 3. Is that her name?
Gwen Stacy.
Oh my gosh, she was so pretty in that movie. I was like, man, she's super.
For my number 1.
It's ranking up there, eh? You gonna move it up?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
For my number 1, it is Spider-Man 2. There is just nothing for me to complain about this movie. For me personally, I don't see anything wrong with the movie. It's a perfect Spider-Man film for me. The train scene we see at the beginning, Peter, what he's dealing with as Spider-Man. Like, he has all these problems: work, school, MJ and Harry, paying rent. That we see Peter's struggles as Peter and as Spider-Man, and he loses his powers. He doesn't want to be Spider-Man anymore, and the writing of this movie was perfect. And Dr. Octopus was a fantastic villain. Fantastic. That's why Spider-Man 2 is my number one.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today for our Spider-Man No Way Home review. And staying after for our little rankings of our favorite Spider-Man movies in order. Comment below with things you guys liked or didn't like about our rankings. You know, keep it nice.
Comment section, get them.
And please remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.